Hey, good morning, partners. Dave Salter coming to you from York, Pennsylvania. One of the new Cubs brought on in February. My thought for July is, do we have the commitment to our craft? And I'm going to tell you a short story to sort of demonstrate what I'm thinking about. I spent nearly 20 years of my career in higher education as the chief marketing communications officer at colleges in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland. And I was at the second stop on this journey, and I realized that I had a major marketing problem. At the time, the college was one of the two least expensive colleges in the Middle Atlantic states. And at the same time, there was a bunch of major magazines that had started publishing these annual college and university rankings. And of course, this university was ranked by U.S. News and World Report for 3 consecutive years as, you guessed it, the least expensive college in the Middle Atlantic states, one year coming in at number 1. So the dean of admissions thought that this was what we should hang our marketing hat on, being the cheapest. So my office happened to be unintentionally located on the path that the bubbly tour guides would take when they were bringing prospective students and their parents on their campus tour. And I began to see these curious looks on the faces of parents as they were coming through these tours. So being a curious person myself, I started making it a habit to step out into the hallway when the parents were coming by. Their students would go and they were checking out the auxiliary gym, and I would just go out and ask the parents a simple question, what do you think? And universally, the response from the parents was, we're trying to figure out how you're going to screw our kid. There's no way you can offer a great experience at the price that you're charging, so we're looking for where you're going to shortchange our kid. So obviously we had a major problem. And I didn't know how to solve it. So fortuitously, I flew to Buda to meet the wizard. I came back from Austin, and I was beckoned by the dean of admissions, and he says, we need you to do something to boost enrollment in our summer school program. And summer school was, a moneymaker because of low overhead, and the faculty members made a lot of extra money teaching summer classes. So I wrote a kick-ass radio spot. I had my radio guy rough produce it, and I went and I played it for the one-man committee. And you can imagine the responses from him. But I knew the spot was good. I knew it was going to drive traffic, telephone traffic to the admissions office. So I was committed to this spot, and I couldn't figure out what to do. So I put the spot on a device, and I walked around that campus that afternoon for 3 hours. And I asked any student that would give me 60 seconds, I would play the spot and say, what do you think? So after 3 hours of no negative responses, I went back to my office. I called my radio guy and I said, let's get this thing produced and get it on the air. So the next day I saw the dean. He said, what'd you decide to do? And I said, we're going to run with it. And he said, I don't know, the typical responses that we've all heard before, right? So about 3 weeks later, I saw the dean and I asked him how things were going. And he said, telephone traffic was crazy. Enrollment numbers were looking really good. So I felt emboldened at this point. So back to my marketing conundrum. I said to myself, these magazine rankings are going to go away at some point, and then we're going to be stuck. Who wants to get a degree from the cheapest liberal arts college in the Middle Atlantic states? So I knew that we had to start telling people about the quality of the experience that their kids are going to receive. So I embarked on writing 10 spots about 10 of our most interesting faculty members for an annual campaign. And I played the first, I had the first spot rough produced by my radio guy. And I played it for the one-man committee. And again, you can imagine, the responses that he had. And I wish I could play that spot for you because it was absolutely killer. But so I played it for him, and he says, again, I was committed to it. So I took the thing on a device, walked around campus for a second time. This was a few months later after the first one. Walked around campus for 3 hours, and the kids didn't tell me how cool it was or how radical it was. The universal response from the students was, I want to learn from that guy. So I knew, I was committed. Again, I was committed to this spot. Went back to my office, called my radio guy, said, we have to do a national search for some voice talent. I said, I'm not going to let your morning drive guy screw up my copy. We did that. I had the spot produced, ran with it. About 8 or 9 months, crickets, right? And about that time, I'm at a meeting. President calls me aside after the meeting, and he says, hey, listen, I was just at a Rotary Club or Chamber of Commerce or something, and I got some comments from some people about how unique and how well done our radio advertising campaign was. Now, he was the second most arrogant person I had ever worked for, but I knew that I now had cover from the committee. A couple months later, I was fortunate to receive the Pennsylvania Association of Broadcasters Gold Award for the best radio spot in the state of Pennsylvania. Now, I know how much Mick Torbay hates radio advertising awards, but what that did for me was, there was 2 important things. When you work in higher education, the more letters you have after your name, the better it is. So once I won that award, I knew I had cover from the ivory tower types. And second, I got to admit, it was pretty cool walking up to receive that award and listening to all the writers from Pittsburgh and Philadelphia go, who the F is this guy from York, Pennsylvania? So anyway, the next year I wrote about 10 of our most interesting students. The third year I wrote about 10 of our most interesting alumni. And then I rinsed and repeated that process for 8 years. After 8 years, our enrollment went from 2,700 from when we started that campaign to 5,500. And you all know how much college costs. So that was a big number for our operating budget. And the folks in our advancement office, before we did the campaign, they couldn't raise a nickel if they were standing on a corner with a coffee can. And they did a capital campaign and raised $45 million, built a new sport and fitness center, $10 million for a library renovation, and they also built a new performing arts center. So I want to leave you with this. Again, what would have happened if I didn't have the commitment to those first 2 spots? What would have happened to that 8-year campaign? What would have happened to enrollment, to fundraising? I'm in Drop Mark watching videos and studying and whatnot. I often hear the comment that, in the end, we're going to do what the client wants us to do. But my challenge for us today is, how committed are we to our craft? And how committed are we to proving that to our clients? I look forward to seeing you all in August at the partner meeting. Salter out.